The final unredacted Ghislaine Maxwell deposition was made public, not rumored, not whispered, but officially released. And buried deep within its pages was material that sent shockwaves far beyond the courtroom. According to the documents, a ledger was referenced, a list, a web of connections allegedly linking Prince Andrew and several other high-status figures, connected to royal and elite circles. 8 names in total. 8 doors that, once opened, raised questions no palace press office seemed prepared to answer. There was no immediate denial, no spokesperson, no carefully worded statement, just silence. And when institutions like monarchies go quiet, it isn't confusion, it's containment. This wasn't internet gossip anymore. This wasn't speculation bouncing around message boards. It was a forensic moment, sworn testimony, timelines, patterns. The kind of information that doesn't shout, but weighs heavily enough to fracture narratives built over decades. Inside Buckingham Palace, sources later claimed protocols tightened instantly. Communications narrowed. Trust lines hardened. Prince William, long known for restraint under pressure, reportedly cut off remaining channels to Montecito. Not out of emotion, but calculation. Because when a system perceives risk, it doesn't negotiate. It isolates. Thousands of miles away, the shift was felt. Prince Harry, according to people close to him, paced as headlines began circling a word that changes everything when it appears in legal contexts. Asterisk trafficking star. Not accusation. Not conclusion. But proximity. Implication. Association. For years, Harry believed he was protecting someone misunderstood by an unforgiving institution. But as timelines began to resurface, the question quietly transformed. It was no longer, why didn't the palace accept her? It became, what did the palace know before I ever did? In a single morning, the fairytale cracked, not from another interview or memoir, but from the possibility that the royal family may have walked into something far more complex than PR chaos or family tension. To understand why nerves reportedly tightened behind palace walls, analysts began revisiting the years rarely discussed, the blurred period between 2013 and 2016. Years that placed Meghan Markle in cities known not just for luxury, but discretion. Istanbul, Phuket, St. Bart's, the French Riviera. Places where wealth moves quietly, where identities blur, and where privacy laws bend for the powerful. Publicly, she was described as a hustling actress. Privately, questions emerged. How did her travel align with her income? How did access precede opportunity? Why did her path overlap with elite social circuits that rarely intersect with mid-level Hollywood careers? And then there was Soho House. Described publicly as a creative members club, but portrayed by some critics as something more selective. A place where introductions mattered. Where proximity created momentum. Where ambition met access. And at the center of that world, one figure appeared repeatedly. Marcus. Not family. Not a publicist. Not a manager. A connector. Someone who arranged tables, facilitated introductions, and moved comfortably through rooms long before royal corridors ever opened. According to this interpretation, these weren't coincidences. They were placements. The missing years no longer looked random. They looked curated. Not proof. Not verdict. But pattern. And in institutions built on lineage, optics, and control, even the suggestion of a hidden network is enough to trigger alarm. Because monarchies don't fear scandal. They fear breach quiet grooming. Careful positioning. A stage set long before Harry ever stepped into the light. Money can disappear. Phones can break. Flight records can be corrected or quietly adjusted. But some things refuse to vanish, especially the things that glitter. On paper, Meghan Markle's pre-royal lifestyle never fully reconciled with her reported income. Not the luxury stays. Not the yachts. Not the first-class mileage. The math simply didn't settle. Someone, somewhere, appeared to be underwriting access. And the trail, according to critics, doesn't lead to banks. It leads to jewelers. The most persistent symbol is a pair of earrings, rare, high-value diamonds that became far more than accessories. They appeared, vanished, and reappeared at moments that never quite aligned with official explanations. First they were said to be borrowed, then gifted. Then the story shifted. Again. Because diamonds don't forget. Their provenance clings to them like fingerprints. And photographs suggested the earrings may have been worn before the date they were supposedly received as a gift. That raised an uncomfortable question. Who placed them in her hands, and why? If even one of the elite names referenced in Maxwell-related testimony intersects with that transfer, then the jewelry stops being decoration. It becomes documentation. Cold, brilliant markers of a relationship that may predate the fairytale entirely. Prince Andrew's scandals were once treated as isolated, his disgrace, his downfall, a separate branch of the royal tree. But timelines have a way of collapsing distance. Andrew's documented communications with Ghislaine Maxwell, including requests that shock the public, are already part of the historical record. What unsettles analysts is overlap. What if the same social reservoirs Andrew drew from intersected with the circles Meghan moved through during her least documented years? That possibility makes her televised claim that she barely knew who Andrew was begin to wobble. Not as proof, but as improbability. How does someone navigate an orbit without ever acknowledging its gravitational center? Then there is the whispered dossier. According to long-circulating claims, Prince William reviewed a private briefing when Harry announced his intention to marry. Not gossip. Not tabloid clippings. But compiled material, travel patterns, elite club access, jewelry provenance, social introductions. William's alleged warning, "Don't rush this," wasn't jealousy. It wasn't classism. It was caution delivered in the language of duty. A warning Harry is said to have ignored. Whenever scrutiny intensified, observers noticed a pattern. A carefully timed family photograph. A soft focus image of Archie. A sudden headline. About titles or reconciliation. The children, critics argue, became emotional shields, moments of innocence deployed to redirect impact. But the storm has changed. This is no longer about optics. It's about structure. About succession. Royal law predates public opinion. And one rule stands immovable. A royal child must be born of the body. If that requirement fails, titles, status, and historical placement collapse instantly. For years, questions hovered quietly. Why the distant photographs? Why the sealed birth details? Why the layers of privacy tighter than those surrounding heads of state? Now those whispers grow louder, not because of gossip, but because institutions under threat seek certainty. They verify everything. If cooperation is refused, refusal itself becomes an answer. What's at stake isn't reputation anymore. It's the final leverage. The children's place within the royal framework. The last anchor. And anchors can be lifted. As pressure mounts, Harry is said to change. Quieter. More restless. Walking the Montecito grounds like someone